starting with Dr. Vishal. What are the factors that influence energy efficiency in HVAC systems, and how technology has improved the performance of HVAC systems? Dr. Vishal.
I would start from the load side. That first and foremost, how do we reduce the load? And then, of course, fans, pumps, the control algorithms, right? And then, of course, the chiller efficiencies. So there are a whole spectrum of things. What is more important is that instead of going for a component-wise approach, which generally people say that, okay, I have chiller of this COP, or I have fan of this efficiency, or whatever, right? People generally look at component-wise, and it is not necessary that just a collection of efficient components make the system efficient. So it's more important to look holistically at the system and integrate the whole thing, and then look at the performance. So sometimes less efficient equipment, but properly designed, properly controlled and managed, can deliver very good efficiency. And on the other hand, most efficient equipment put together might not deliver the required efficiency. So I would say that holistic approach is what is required.
Thank you, Dr. Vishal, for sharing those views. Mr. Azaz, what are your views about the key considerations to influence
I will strongly say what Dr. Vishal said. We have to look at the integrated approach. We can get the best of efficiency of chillers, may not help if we don't integrate together. And it starts with the load calculations. The load calculation has to be optimized. Most of the time we design the system for the worst case scenario. That might happen only once in a year or twice in a year. So we have to look at how do we calculate load and how do we try to save the load. That is what he said. And then it's not only about the selection of the equipments. I come from majority of execution background. How do we install the system is also an important thing. How do we commission the system is very important. We are talking about a lot of new technologies that are coming in, but if in the meantime we are forgetting the basics, and if you forget the basics and you go on to doing a lot of extravaganza kind of things, nothing will help. Our basics have to be strong, and then we can improvise on those basics. Most of the time we forget the basic and try to do something else which will not help. That's my views.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your insights. Mr. Neeraj.
Mr. Ejaz has rightly said, nowadays in the market there are a lot of energy efficient terminologies being used, and they are very fancy and they are very difficult to digest most of the layman. Okay, people like us who are in the industry, they can understand this terminologies very well. But when we think of an HVAC energy efficiency, it goes through normally a way to see the three phases very, very carefully. One is how effectively, efficiently we design the system, how effectively we select the system, we select the particular equipment, and how we are operating and maintaining it properly. If I have an HVAC system and if I'm not cleaning my filters properly, not cleaning strainers properly, not calibrating my sensors properly, ultimately it is of no use. So here operation and maintenance also plays very, very important role. And when we are talking about the energy efficiency in HVAC.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Neeraj. You are talking about the designing and selecting the systems. So while considering the considerations for businesses or residential owners, so how do you look to invest in solar HVAC systems?
I have myself installed a solar HVAC system in my farmhouse. It is working very, very well. Though the people look at the initial cost of it is very high, I agree with it. But government providing a lot of subsidies and stuff like that, I would recommend. But still the resistance due to the Indian mindset is there that they would go for the first cost, but they would not look at the long-term benefits of it. So I would personally recommend to look into it. Those who have their own independent house, so they should definitely look out for the options, the solar efficiency, solar. Of course, it has its own limitations, but everything has a limitation of its own. So we have to begin somewhere.
Thank you for highlighting that. Dr. Vishal, how do you see the solar HVAC systems? for installation purposes, and what would be the ROI?
So basically, how I see solar-based air conditioning, I'm not looking at the technology piece, but what I'm looking at right now is the bigger challenge that we are going to face is the residential AC consumption, especially because it comes in the night time. And at the night time, there is no solar. So how we can decarbonize the nighttime air conditioning through storage will be one application of solar energy for air conditioning. Of course, there is in the daytime also how we can use it either through photovoltaic route and creating electricity and then providing the cooling, or using the solar energy directly and then doing. So those are the things where other experts can give us better insights that how do these technologies compare and what is the cost benefit analysis. But from our point of view, our research interest, we are seeing how we can do a storage and use solar energy for the nighttime air conditioning.
Yeah, that's a point to ponder about how to do the storage. Mr. Azaz, so while we are talking about the solar HVAC systems into the businesses or residential houses, how MEP in building design can help increase energy efficiency?
So as you say, in MEP, the major energy guzzler is HVAC. If you are taken care HVAC, which is consuming 60 to 70%, rest of the things can be easily done. But solar, as of now, is that as Mr. Shukla said, it is at the nascent stage. Probably it is on the lower capacities, residential buildings or apartments. It can go. From the commercial point of view of its usage, it is still, there a way to go, and probably we'll see when the things are in line, when we start using it for the commercial offices or maybe an industrial application kind of thing. That we need to see when it comes.
Thank you for your informative sharing. So next question is, what steps can be taken to reduce energy consumption in HVAC systems? Mr. Azaz.
So as I said, from the starting with the right design, and before a design, how the building envelope, how do we have the building envelope which can have lesser load inside by taking some measures. People are going for the high efficiency classes so that the external load cannot come inside the building. Then people are talking about wherever the cooling is required, you cool that space. Balance space can be taken out. So how do we do the heat load? How do we optimize the heat load rather than adding safety? Most of the time I find the building is designed with so much safety that you install 200-ton chillers, and when it comes, you don't even need 50 tons. So the safeties have to be looked at. Obviously, the optimization has to be done. Then the system selection. I'll give an example of VRF. Most of the people are going and selling VRF for each and every application. VRF has its own application. It will work in a better scenario, but it is not the one solution for all. But problem with our industry that once new things come, we go on selling it without understanding the customer problems or customer solutions. That's one aspect. How do we select the equipment? How do we put in integration in place? At least in India, I can say 70% of the installations, the HVAC system gets commissioned, but the BMS system is not commissioned for years and years. So unless we have the integration system, use of AI also can help us to at least get the data, and then we predict what is going to happen. So unless we integrate the controls, the AI part of it with the system, and finally the system has to be installed, system has to be commissioned, and as Mr. Shukla said, it has to be operated. We are talking about ongoing commissioning, where we go and check what was my last year's performance of the system and how do I fine tune. In India, another issue comes in is the seasonality. We have 3 seasons, and the same system cannot work for all the 3 seasons. It has to be fine tuned properly. So earlier, when I joined the industry, when we used to do the government projects, we used to have seasonal commissioning as a part of my contract. Probably it is just gone away. So we need to look at how do we fine tune the systems in monsoon, how do we fine tune the system in winter, how do I fine tune the system in summer. that will also have huge impact because we don't have one solution for all. I think these are the areas we need to look at when it comes to for the HVAC energy efficiency.
Yeah, thank you once again. Dr. Vishal, and Mr. Azaz was talking about the integration of controls and automation. So what is your opinion about the smart sensors and IoT-enabled devices that enable real-time monitoring and control to optimize efficiency?
I think it is need of the hour, and there are 2-3 things which are driving this. So, traditionally we had these BMS systems, which were very expensive, and you cannot start from a very small one and keep on expanding it. So it has to be purchased in one go, and as I mentioned, it's expensive. Now what is happening? IoT, cloud computing, and AI, ML, and analytics. These are the 3 things which are driving a total different approach to monitoring, control, and managing the assets. Now, the advantage is that we can start very small and scale. The cost is low, and the biggest advantage is that not only we get data which BMS would generally be providing, but analytics can be built on it. And when we talk about efficiency, then there has to be a continuous comparison with the baseline. We are comparing with what? So how can we find the baseline, and are we performing equal to the baseline or not? And if not, what are the probable causes? What are the faults? So we can build in the fault detection and diagnostics with so much of sensing and so much of computation being available. That helps in actually delivering the performance, because unless we know that something is wrong, unless we know that we are performing below the baseline and what are the reasons why we are performing, we will not fix the problems. So too much of data, just providing the data just overloads the operator, and many times these alarms and these warnings are disabled, and people don't get into the root cause and find the problem. So I guess these 3 things are driving the way we can manage efficiency now.
Yeah, that's quite a good highlight you have given about this. Mr. Neeraj, just now Dr. Vishal is mentioning about the fault detection and baseline. You must have attended some projects or other things. So as a consultant, how do you see the integration of controls to reduce?
First of all, when we are maintaining the system, operator or who is the operation in charge or supervisor, ship supervisor, he's a boss, he's a king there, because he has to maintain that particular system. And as far as this controls and functions and diagnostic is concerned, yes, by sitting here, it is very, very easy for us to think about it. But for them, they have to run and operate the system. So as far as this IoT and smart sensors are considered, I've particularly seen and attended the project. It has been highly beneficial for them. I agree with Dr. Vishal that there are a lot of parameters and data we get collected, but effective selecting the which one is right for us is very important for us. Otherwise, it has no use. But if we have proper consultant to judge which data is required, it is not required, and set the parameters, like say for example filters. I've seen a project where the IoT and smart sensors, they are detecting and giving this next filter when you need to change after how many days. It detects, diagnosis, analysis, and gives it. And more or less, it falls into the accuracy range of 90%. So definitely this is effective. But again, it's a pick and choose again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing your insights about that. Mr. Azaz, many infrastructures and urbanization is going on. The buildings are becoming more and more complex. So HVAC system has become the need of the hour. So how do you see IoT integration for that in your design systems?
So while we design the system, the IoT has to be part and parcel of the designing. Most of the time, what we do is we design a system and then we think, well, we will add this, we will add this. If we take IoT along with our design, I think that will help in understanding of what we are going to achieve. Otherwise, what generally happens is once the facility is built, some gentleman comes and say, I will save this energy, you install this. So we install this. Then the next gentleman say, boss, you installed this and you got this much, I will give this much. So you install this. And we go on doing experiments. At the end, nothing happens. So, and most importantly, it is not important to have complex systems. We need to have a simple systems, because finally these are operated by an ITI guy or a person who is just become an operator of the machine. We need to get down to that level. Today, when we are talking about, yes, it will go in our minds. Finally, the operator has to know what it is. Otherwise, I have seen installations, the three-way wall or two-way wall, they just take out the actuators and wire it so that it remains open for all the time, because it is a headache for them, right? So it is very important. The IoT and design has to go hand in hand. The execution and IoT has to go in hand in hand. The operation and the handing over of the system from the project side to the facility type side has to be very, very smooth. Then only the information knowledge can go to them, and we need to look at review that they utilizing. Otherwise, it just becomes an asset which has no value. So we need to have this approach. Then only I think this will help us in totality or holistically rather.
You just mentioned about the cost and other things. So whether it is compatible and what could be the ROI when we see to the cost and benefit analysis in the MAP design system, as Dr. Vishal was also mentioning.
So ROI, again, it depends upon what kind of systems you are using. But generally, if the ROI is not in 3 or 5 years, nobody will go for it, because generally, as even Mr. Shukla said, everybody looks at what is the cost. If the cost is recovered faster, it is better. People are talking about 10% saving in the energy. All these things nobody has so much have seen by themselves. If some data analysis comes like a VRF system, people are saying it is very energy efficient. Where is the data? For last 10 years, we are using VRF. The data is not there to say what it is. So unless we get the data, we will not be able to calculate the ROI. Otherwise, the ROI will only remain on paper. Actually, nothing will happen.
Yeah, thank you for enlightening about this fact. Dr. Vishal, this we supposing we have installed this energy efficient HVAC systems. So how do you think they are contributing to reduce the greenhouse emissions?
Yeah, I mean, that's very clear that one is through the savings in energy, and assuming that the energy that is being fed to these air conditioning is causing the emissions. It's not already clean. So more the consumption, more the emissions. And of course, the management of refrigerant. So what kind of refrigerants have been used and how they have been managed, again, contribute to that. But I like to endorse and extend what Mr. Ajay just said. I think he has raised a very important point. See, we as researchers and designers, we try to make the things complicated. And not just the HVAC system, the whole building, we try to put too many things. And in the end, there has to be some operator. And the kind of training, the kind of academic programs that are required to train these operators to understand the complex designs is not available, right? So first problem. And the second problem, if that is not available, how are we equipping them? Are we providing them some analytics or graphs or some decision support system which can tell them that this is the probable problem and this is how do we address it? Like say for example, even if we buy a printer, it tells you that there is a paper jam. This is how you open it, this is how you remove it, right? So a small device also has very good features regarding what are the faults and the probable causes of thing not being working and way to fix it, right? Those kind of things are not available in buildings. And I think that's something which is very important, because the efficiency and the savings will come from the actual operations and how well we have trained our operators and how well we have equipped them with the decision support system. So thank you for bringing that out. I think very important point there.
Rightly said, Dr. Vishal. You are talking about the scaling of the operators and graphics. So, what steps can be taken to increase awareness for the businesses? Because we are going for data integrations and a lot many data and other graphics they have to use. So, how the awareness can be increased?
So we have to go beyond awareness. Awareness has to be increased that this is required, but
Yes.
we have to do a lot of training programs. We have to develop test beds where they can come and work and see different scenarios. Just like, maybe it is a simulator, maybe the way we teach pilots, we can develop simulators where facility operators are operating a facility and then there are problems created and then they try to identify and fix, right? So we have to create all these kind of situations where they are exposed to, they are able to see the data and understand where the problem is and fix it. And then we also have to develop these artificial intelligence based systems which can detect for them these things and say that these are the 3 probable causes and help them take the final decision. So it needs a proper training environment, be it physical or simulation, and then a large scale skilling and training program has to be taken up because there's so many facilities. And what I'm worried about is not just the facilities where people can afford to have full-time people to take care of their facilities. There are many facilities where there are no professional operators, right? So what about them? So they don't have enough resources to hire a person and to manage the things. So one of the possible things is that should we shift from owning the appliances, owning the infrastructure to cooling as a service or HVAC as a service, so that somebody else professionally manages these things, maybe like a district cooling system, and provide us with the service. So we have to not only look at the technical solutions, but we must also look at the business solutions. That are there any other ways of operating these infrastructure?
Yeah, thank you once again, Dr. Vishal.
Just to add, Dr. Vishal said, there are a few companies who came in to give these cooling services. But in India, there's a huge problem about trust. And that happened to these companies and they left India because they were supposed to deliver service and get money because they were putting their capital cost. But there will be some dispute which will be raised not to pay the money. And that became an issue. And I think that was one of the major causes. District cooling is, yes, the good concept coming up. If that happens, it will be very, very fast. In terms of skilling, what kind of salary we pay to the operators is also important. We put crores of machines in the hands of these operators. If we do not train them, we do not pay them properly. That also we need to look at because we can't have, the operators who have nothing to lose, if they will go and get another job, but we are putting the huge asset in their hands. We need to look at that also.
Yeah, to add it further, I wish to have some more insights over here.
Yes, sir.
To make it user friendly, to make them understand to that level of the operator is very, very important. We did one exercise in one of the industries. What we did is for every component, we created a QR barcode. And in QR code, operator has to just go and scan the QR code. He will get complete information about that particular equipment or a particular component, including the troubleshooting videos in his language. He can select the language also, whichever language he wants. If he's Andhra, Marathi, Telugu, the video gets translated in that language. And he can easily understand how all components, all operation manual, he can read, listen, and troubleshooting videos also he can. So that has made a great impact. And with this, we are receiving more and more orders from the company with this kind of a scaling and training, because many companies, they do not wish to put the money on trainings and developments they just want a passive action. So this is how one of the best ways to because YouTube is there everywhere, they just connect and check what it is. And we should also go for the reward scheme also. Many companies should go for reward scheme of the operator of the month who can regularly doing it or showing interest in energy saving. So that kind of approach also a company can take.
Thank you for the shared opinions to you all. Um, Asking about this HVAC energy efficiency, whether star ratings are the best practices to follow that in the residential or commercial businesses?
See, somewhere we have to start. Okay, that's the starting point. And as we see that the BE, that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, they have taken a very good measure by restricting the indoor air, the temperature inside the room to 24 degrees Celsius. This has been mandatory from 2021. And yeah, so that is a very good step. And as we know that every increase of 1 degree Celsius for the summer temperature, suppose 25 becomes, suppose I'm setting it 26, there's an energy saving of 6%. So normally in India, people used to keep about 20-21%, and now government has restricted to 24. So that has resulted to almost 24% energy saving. So somewhere we have to begin. So it's a good step government has taken. And yeah, BE, star rating may not be the only thing. There are many other things, but at least somewhere to begin with, it's a good step.
Yeah, that's a star rating is a good step to start with. What about the SEER ratings and ER ratings, Mr. Kazi?
All these ratings will definitely help. At least it will give them, the insight or the mirror to what they are doing. There is one software which is developed by the GBC, which is called ARC, in which you can get all the data, not only the HVAC, but if you are saying that your green building or platinum rated building, today where are we? It's a daily input which has to be put in. Today are we on platinum or today are we on gold? That gives but then there are very few takers because then everybody gets exposed. So that's the one issue which we need to look at. ECBC. In fact, I was one of the writer in that one of the chapter. ECBC is now coming up. The draft is getting ready now with the more stringent star rating. ECBC plus, ECBC super plus, and kind of things. I think once we start implementing and making mandatory, things will start, because in India, voluntary is little difficult. If everything is voluntary, then everybody will not follow. But try to put some mandatory things in place, then only things will start going. Otherwise, it's very difficult, at least in India.
Yes, that's quite a knowledge sharing thing. Stringent regulations are a must. Dr. Vishal, what are in your opinion, what government policies or incentives are in place to promote the adoption of HVAC system which are energy efficient?
I'm definitely not aware of all the policies and incentives.
What the measures can be taken?
So the two important ones, ECBC for commercial buildings as well as ECBC for residential buildings. So they are definitely very important and making an impact. And the one which is very, very visible is the star labeling. And especially for the residential sector, the whole thing has to be simplified. So I don't want to get into whether this is copper or aluminum tube or this type of filter or this type of, there's so many variables. I don't want to understand. I just want to see the number of stars. So it becomes very simple for a buyer first to understand that more the stars, more efficient it is. And the second thing, like we see in the refrigerators, it also tells you how much electricity it will consume on a particular style of usage. I mean, the standard usage that they would have tested them on. And this is the electricity it will consume. So it is going a little beyond bringing in the energy literacy so that people, those who are interested only the star, they can stay there. Those who are interested in the understanding of how much energy it will consume, they can understand that. Then it is also giving the COP or the seasonal energy efficiency or all technical stuff also. So it helps in bringing more energy literacy and making a better decision on how to purchase the equipment. So I think these two things have been very successful. I'm sure there would be other initiatives also, and maybe other panelists can help us.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vishal. for sharing that insight. Mr. Neeraj, what are your views about this? What the government should do besides the star ratings and other things, as Dr. Vishal says?
Okay, as far as HVAC industry is concerned, there's no particular policy in my knowledge which government has brought for the energy consumption, energy efficiency. But what government has, there's, there's something called mandatory energy audit, which majority of the government companies which are highly energy incentive, they have to conduct, and HVAC is one of the part of it. So there is called a PAT scheme, that is Performance Achievement Trade Scheme. Under that, they have to get registered and they have to get this done. And that is very been rigorously followed. And one of the advantages of certificates are when they go abroad and they want to trade outside, that certificate helps and gives one more cutting edge to them. So this is one of the advantages. And as far as the overall for HVAC, perhaps it is we consider, then one of the things government can look into it is they should encourage or they should give encouragement to the retrofitting of the existing system, because there are systems which are very old in India and which are running for 20-25 years, and they are high energy guzzlers. They are sucking the energy like anything. So they should promote or they should provide some subsidy to retrofit the old system to new system, so they become more energy efficient, like providing airside economizers. That is one of the options, and providing energy efficient compressors, replacing the compressors. So like with the VSD compressors. So these initiative government should take to provide more and more encouragement to this in form of subsidy or something.
Mr. Neeraj, thank you very much for that. Mr. Azaz, he's telling retrofit has to be one of the strategies. So, what are your views about the policies which government should take or initiate?
The government, obviously, as Mr. Shukla said, can roll out certain policy, but unless, as I said, both mandatory and rewarding, nobody will take action. There are some companies who are there in the industry who are providing the similar kind of solutions where they do the energy audit and then they say they design a system for them for retrofitting and they take the guarantee for them. So if we are able to promote them more and more, where customer is also happy, the system provider is also happy, and it will be win-win situation for everybody, all the stakeholders, including the environment, which is one of the stakeholders we generally miss. Government, as I said, has got the bodies like BE or BIS. They are trying to do and do better, because earlier these two institutions were isolated. Now they have tried, to inculcate or to involve each and every stakeholder. Like in the ECBC new rating, there are 25 organizations who work, right from the plumbing to the electrical and to the lot of other fire and all these things. That they are doing it. The issue is on the implementation side, how many people are actually taking that as one of the reference and moving forward, because it is not the government's job to like danda leke, they cannot be everywhere. So it is as a citizen like you, where you are promoting such kind of seminar, this has to go on and on and on, because awareness will become an important factor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Azaz. Thank you, gentlemen. It was quite a knowledge sharing discussion.